Howdy, y'all. My name's Eric Christensen, and I'm here to talk about the voting process and how it works and why you should go out and vote because your vote does matter. Being first year college students during an election year, you have the ability to vote, and you should do so because it is your civic duty and you have the right to under our democracy. For example, in this past election, Joe Biden won a few counties in Rhode Island by just one vote, so you can't say your vote does not matter. This is not a video trying to persuade you to vote Republican or Democrat, but it's a video to teach you about the process of voting and how your vote is counted. Every American who is 18 or about to turn 18 gets a voter registration card in the mail that you fill out and send back to your county so that they can give you a voter registration card, which gives you the ability to vote. Being the upcoming generation and most diverse generation, we have the ability to vote for a candidate that will represent us in a fashion that you personally like. But I encourage everybody to read up on which candidates are running and what their policies and goals are for the country before submitting your ballot. Do not just believe mainstream media because there's a lot of fake news in this world. Rather, do your own research and educate yourself on a list of candidates. Here's an interview I conducted with a political science major who is very passionate about the political side of America and will give you background information on the voting process and how it works and how your vote does count.
This is Max. Max, introduce yourself.
I'm Max. I'm a political science major here at Texas Tech.
So, Max, I got a few questions for you that go under the topic of voting and stuff like that. So, the first one is, what is the Electoral College?
The Electoral College is the way that we choose our president. Instead of a direct election where the popular vote would decide who the president was, each state has a certain amount of representatives that will vote for the state on the president. Bigger states will obviously have more. And the way it works is if you win the popular votes in one state, then you will get all the electoral votes for that state. So that's why it kind of comes down to what you call swing states that have more electoral votes because of their population size and things like that.
Cool. So why was it created and used?
So it's kind of created, it's kind of doesn't really apply to anything today, but the reason it was created was the founding fathers feared a direct election, someone like in the sense of a dictator being able to sway popular opinion too easily. So they wanted to put it up to an electoral college that may be able to see past some of that and it be a little bit safer, almost like a checks and balances, so it's not just the people deciding.
Cool. All right, so the third question, do you believe that all methods we have, such as booth, absentee, and mail-in ballots, are all legitimate to count towards the election?
I think that any vote is a vote. It's just, it's the way you handle it and how it's done. There's a lot of controversy this year with like mail-in ballots and things like that. Should they count? In terms of should every vote count, I think yes. But when you hear about things like more votes being sent out than requested and things like that, that's where it gets a little fishy. But any person that wants to vote and however they're available to do it, I think they should be able to, and it should count.
So that brings me to my next question. Do you believe there was fraudulent ballots in this last election?
That one's a difficult question because you hear one thing from one side and one from the other. I think it's quite certainly possible. Do I think it's been completely proven yet? No. We're in a crazy time. It's really close election, so I think you're gonna, no matter who wins, you're gonna hear things from other sides. But it's definitely possible. But as of right now, we just don't know.
So this brings me to my next question. If everybody's vote, quote unquote, matters, then why doesn't the popular vote decide who's in office?
That's a good question. So, in some terms of it, not everyone's vote specifically does matter, which is kind of seems like a terrible thing to say. But because of the Electoral College, there are certain states. If I'm a Republican in California, let's be honest, at the moment, my vote doesn't mean anything. But that doesn't take away from the fact that everybody needs to vote. It's your civic duty, whether or not specifically your vote is going to change the election. You still should do your civic duty. But obviously some people's votes count more in swing states and things like that. And that's just how the system is.
Yeah.
It may not apply as much to modern times, but you got to work with it, and it is what it is.
So that brings me to my final question. What would you say to a Democrat living in Texas who feels the need not to even vote because Texas is always red?
Well, I mean, if you saw this year, like at the very beginning of the election, it was very close. It was really close. It was almost a blue state. You were looking at some maps and it was showing it was blue, which obviously it turned up Trump winning by a couple percent. But I mean, it's a lot closer than people think. Some of the bigger states. So if you're a Democrat in Texas, I mean, if Texas turns blue, that's massive for the Democratic Party. I mean, that would almost have given away the election a lot earlier than it was. So you just got to keep that in mind, that every 4 years, every year, things are changing. And you just got to pay attention and do your civic duty and vote.
There you have it. Maxim Cechek, the political science major. Thank you, sir.
Of course.
So being first-year college students, it is very important to go out and vote because it is your civic duty and you have the power in your vote to choose who you want to run the country. In Texas alone, we had a record-breaking number of new registered voters, which is great. I encourage all college students to vote because your vote matters whether you think it or not, and being the new generation of voters in the United States, we have the ability to shape the country for the future. So instead of thinking that one vote isn't going to change anything, believe that our generation of first-year college students and college students in general have the ability to forecast the future of our country. Thank you.